All this.
Good evening, everybody. Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining us on this special occasion. A heartfelt thank you to my wife, Adina, the visionary behind this evening in particular, but truthfully behind everything we do as a team. And Adina, my wife, is the mastermind behind all of it. I want to also say a thank you to my in-laws, Ruven and Tamar, who flew up here from, my father-in-law was in San Diego. My mother-in-law was actually in New Jersey with her newest grandchild that was born exactly a month ago. And they came to be here with us in honor of this occasion and to spend time with their grandchildren. Around 2 summers ago, I was with my family in my hometown of Montreal, Canada. And we were going through old family photos and also going through pictures of our family by the Rebbe. In one of the photo frames that held a picture of our family by the Rebbe, I opened the photo frame and out came a few dollars. These are dollars that the Rebbe would give to people on a Sunday afternoon, as the Rebbe would stand on his feet for many hours to distribute dollars to charity and to give blessings to people that came his way. So we thought we knew where all our dollars were, but out came a few more dollars. Once we saw those dollars that had a date on it, and as a result of that, we were able to find a specific picture of our family by the Rebbe. And as a result, I was also able to get a video and hear an audio of a conversation that I had with the Rebbe. I remember the moment vividly. I remember standing in line in 770 Eastern Parkway for many hours. I was a young child of 5, maybe 6 years old. I remember my heart pounding. I remember the large group of people around us. And I remember my mother leaning into my ear and saying, "The Rebbe knows what's in your heart." And that was very touching, but also intimidating. I felt a wave of teshuvah, even as a 5, 6-year-old. I felt if the Rebbe's seeing what's in my heart, I have to make sure it's pure. And as I came and I had my moment by the Rebbe, my mother said my Hebrew name, Menachem Aryeh, to the Rebbe. The Rebbe looked at me and gave me a blessing and gave me $1. And you hear it on the audio. Unfortunately, it was too short, so you don't see it in the video. You don't see my yarmulke pass by. But I said thank you to the Rebbe. Those were the 2 words I said to the Rebbe was thank you. Hearing this audio brought me to tears. It was the Rebbe giving me a blessing. And for me saying thank you to the Rebbe. At the time, I felt I was saying thank you for the $1. But I realized as I grew older, my thank you was a lot more meaningful or a lot deeper than just the $1 that I received. While the $1 was holy, the $1 stays with me, I was thanking the Rebbe for seeing me, for seeing what I was then, but also for seeing what I will become. I was thanking the Rebbe for believing in me, for guiding my mother, who before I was born lived in France and needed guidance on her next step of life, trying to find more meaning. And the Rebbe sat with my mother and had a conversation in French, helping and guiding her towards a more meaningful life and forever altering her life's path. I felt that thank you had in it, thank you for the Rebbe for guiding my father through challenges in his life with care, wisdom, and patience. And I was saying thank you to the Rebbe for orchestrating that right outside of 770, literally on the steps of 770, as my father and mother were both gifted a Tanya that we will be printing later on this evening. But the Rebbe also had a Tanya printed in honor of his own 80th birthday. And both my father and mother received the Tanya. And in their heart, they were praying a blessing that they should start a family. moments after they received their Tanyas, literally moments, is when they met. Within 2 months, they were married. And literally a year later, from that moment of the gift of the Tanya, was my older sister, Tanya, born. A moment that would lead to our entire family, even their very existence. I was saying thank you to the Rebbe for allowing our family, my wife Adina and myself and our 6 children, to represent and to be the Rebbe's ambassadors here in Marin County, to build a community of Jews who want to learn more Torah, who want to seek out more mitzvot, who want to grow every day. I was saying thank you for guiding and leading us in building our own community, for guiding and leading us in acquiring this beautiful Chabad house of 11,000 square feet, for helping us grow our summer camp. We couldn't have planned this better, where the counselors are actually walking in right now. That grew from just 17 children and 2 counselors to now, thank God, having 14 staff members, including 8 counselors that flew in from across North America to lead the 75 children going through our camp over the next 4 weeks. All of that began with those 2 words that I gave the Rebbe after he gave me the dollars, was thank you. Those 2 words that I said to the Rebbe were just 2 words, and yet I felt that those 2 words, they carried the weight of many more years to come. And the final thank you that I felt, or I feel now, what I didn't know back then when I was 5 or 6 and having that conversation with the Rebbe, was a thank you that growing our family here in Novato, California in 2025, that we have children that not just know about the Rebbe, not just admire the Rebbe from afar, but to embody the message of the Rebbe, to embody the Rebbe's mission, to care for another Jew the way you, the Rebbe, taught us to care for them, to teach Torah with passion and patience the way you modeled it. As our children say, my Rebbe, and don't say my parents' Rebbe. Even though they never met the Rebbe in person, it's still my Rebbe. Because as the Zohar, the Kabbalistic book of the Zohar writes, and is quoted in the Tanya, that a tzaddik, a righteous person, even after their own passing, is found in this world, yatir midechayoyim, which is the Aramaic or Kabbalistic words that means that even more so during their lifetime. A tzaddik is found in this world after their passing, even more than during their lifetime. Tonight, friends, is a living testimony to that truth. Yatir midechayoyim. The Rebbe is with us now more than ever before. Tonight, we're going to be printing a Tanya, a campaign that was so dear to the Rebbe. Because for him, for the Rebbe, printing a Tanya in a new city that didn't yet have a Tanya printed there didn't just mean placing ink on paper. It meant placing Kedusha, holiness, into the very fabric of the city. It meant transformation. For the Rebbe, it meant connection. It meant elevation and transcendence. So yes, tonight, as I said so many years ago to the Rebbe, we say again tonight, thank you, Rebbe. Tonight, as we gather and reflect on this holy day of Gimmel Tammuz, the 3rd day of Tammuz, I would like to share a message about Rebbe. The Rebbe is a simple name that we refer to our Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Schneerson. But before the Rebbe, there was another Rebbe. There were many rabbis and many Rebbes, but there was one other person that was known simply as Rebbe. His name was Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, Rabbi Judah the Prince. He was one of the greatest leaders throughout Jewish history. He was the compiler of the Mishnah, which means the entire Mishnah that Yossi is going to be concluding this evening, that he worked many, many months in studying, and it's the cornerstone of the entire Talmud, is based on the teachings of the Mishnah that was compiled by Rebbe. or his full name was Rabbi Yehuda the Prince, Rabbi Yehuda the Prince. He was a descendant of King David. He was beloved to his people and respected even by Rome and the emperor. When Rebbe became ill later in life, the entire nation, the entire people of Israel fasted and prayed. The Talmud tells us that during this time, it was said, they knew he was about to pass away. But his disciples, his followers, they said, and this is written in the Talmud, whoever says that Rebbe died shall be pierced with a sword. Such a strong reaction. It's the way of the world. He's going to pass away. He grew older. The sages, to give a quick answer by Rabbi Yonasan Eifshitz, one of the great Talmudic commentaries from the 18th century, he writes that these sages, they weren't denying the physical truth that their leader, their teacher will pass. But they were refusing to accept that Rebbe's presence, that his soul, that his leadership could ever be gone. Because it wasn't, and it still isn't. When Bar Kapara, who was the student that was sent in to see if he has passed away, when he needed to break the news, he didn't want to say that Rebbe died because he knew the consequence that they warned. But instead he said the angels triumphed over the righteous and the ark, the holy ark, was captured. And when asked directly, did he die? He answered, you said it, I didn't. Why did he have to take such steps not to say those words? Because the soul of a tzaddik, a true leader, never leaves. In fact, as the Zohar said, like I mentioned before, Yatir Mebechayei is found here even more than ever. And we see that with Yassi, who actually studied the entire Mishnah. The book that was compiled by Rabbi Yehuda Anasi 1,900 years later, a 14-year-old boy growing up in Novato, California, a place that I didn't even know existed until 13 years ago when I wanted to move here. Born and bred Californian boy, 2025, studied the entire Mishnah
Born in Montreal.
From a teacher, from a Rebbe, from 1,900 years ago. The same is said about Yaakov, Jacob, our patriarch, Mazaro b'chaim afu b'chaim, that if his children are alive, then he too lives on. Or as we say about Moshe, our great leader Moses, Ma lahala omed u'meshamish, afkan omed u'meshamish. Just like there, he stood and served back then, so too now he still stands and serves. These leaders didn't live for themselves, they lived for us. And so therefore, they remain with us. And our Rebbe was no different. He was our Moshe. He was our Yaakov. He was our Rebbe. He didn't seek titles. He didn't seek honor. He sought people. And like he saw in me all those years ago, he saw potential. And he gave everything. Like he did for me back then, he gave me time. And he did that for every Jew. In fact, he did that for every person that came his way. So now, 31 years later, after that hard day, the 3rd of Tammuz, 1994, and for those that read my weekly email, I wrote about it in my Friday email about that memory I had as a young child when I was told the news. But now we see the Rebbe's presence more than ever. When the Shluchim, the Rebbe's ambassadors around the world, which at the time of 1994 was around 1,000, and now is around 5,000. When his children are still teaching, when a 5-year-old boy has that memory of receiving $1 and saying thank you, that lives with him forever. For when a family growing up in Marin County can go around to Little Rock, Arkansas, or to Phoenix, Arizona, or to anywhere else in the world, and yet they know who they are, they know what their mission is, they know who their Rebbe is. Because Yatir Med Chayei, the Rebbe is with us more now, more than ever before. And so like Bar Kapara back then, he didn't say that Rebbe died because the Rebbe's presence lives on. We see that now as well. So to understand what a Rebbe is and to understand what this evening is all about, please turn your eyes to the screen as we'll watch a video of the Rebbe from Gem.